everyone, I'm Ian, and there's a new Mega Man collection coming out! That might not be the most surprising or exciting news to some, but it is for me because it mostly contains games I've never even played.
Yeah, despite my adoration for the Blue Bomber, and unlike my other favorite franchise starring a blue guy killing robots, I have not played every Mega Man game. Really, aside from the classic X and Legend series, I haven't touched a decent chunk of the franchise beyond just dabbling. Now for some, there's a reason. I've messed with Battle Network and Star Force, but since I'm not big on JRPGs, they just failed to really hold my interest. With the Mega Man Zero games though, honestly I'm not sure. Sorry, Mega Man Zero. It's not that I've never played these games. I beat ZX a couple times, and I did mess with the first Zero game back in high school. I still have my copy of it here, but yeah, not overly familiar with these games. Let's change that.
To celebrate Capcom bringing some of these more obscure Mega Man games into the spotlight, we're going to be looking at the first of this series, Mega Man Zero, for the Game Boy Advance, which is called Mega Man Zero, despite not starring any incarnation of Mega Man whatsoever.
I mean, there's one in it. X shows up as a fucking robo-ghost, but yeah, this game, as the name implies, doesn't star an incarnation of Mega Man, but rather Zero, the long-haired, wily built deuteragonist of the X series. Considering how much focus this guy got in the PS1 era X games, the fact that he got a spin-off isn't particularly shocking. What might be shocking though is his redesign. The Zero games have a pretty distinct art style compared to the rest of the franchise, and the character designs are a large part of why. Zero himself looks almost entirely different here. Sure, he's recognizable, but gone is the bulky power armor and nipple orbs, and instead we have the sleek, almost form-fitting look. Still got the ponytail though. It's cool, I really like it.
Know what else I like? The first impression that this game leaves, because holy shit, it is good.
The intro cutscene features a scientist named CL and some random resistance soldiers I don't care about running from a bunch of robots that look eerily like Mega Man X. They find and awaken Zero, who's been deactivated for 100 years, and oh shit, is that his theme from Mega Man X?
Okay, look, Mega Man X, favorite game ever made of all time. I'm kind of a bitch for references to it. Deal with it.
Nostalgia aside, this is legitimately a really badass intro stage. It's short, that'll be a recurring thing actually, but yeah, it's super good. You just sort of murder a bunch of those X-looking dudes until CL gets kidnapped by the boss, who you then go fight. Halfway through, you are given the Z-Saber, which one-shots the boss in an incredibly satisfying fashion, and from there, the story gets to progress. CL and her band of resistance fighters are hiding out from the forces of Neo Arcadia, a human utopia run by a copy of Mega Man X that CL created to act as a guardian when the original X died. Copy X went nuts though. He started executing Reploids en masse, and as a result, CL and her band of rebels are hiding out and trying to keep as many Robo Boys safe as possible. This story is okay, it's pretty good, but Copy X should have been the actual X. Again, X is in this as a sort of robo-ghost called a cyber elf, but having X turn Maverick and kill lots of innocent Reploids in the name of keeping peace would have been really cool, especially since there are a lot of parallels you can draw between Copy X's actions in this game and Sigma's actions in the X series. Hell, the entire Fortress segment at the end feels like it's based on the X1 Sigma castle, and the way you fight him and he turns into a more powerful form really does feel like Copy X going so far in the name of peace that he ends up just as bad as the foe that his inspiration fought all those years ago.
I don't think that's a coincidence either. Up until right before this game came out, Mega Man X was meant to be the villain. This was changed in order to not cause any conflict with the still releasing X series. But yeah, as a result of that, I'm pretty sure him being Sigma-esque was the idea.
Speaking of Mega Man X, the core gameplay here takes some heavy inspiration from that series. The basic mechanics are the same. You can run, jump, dash, and attack. There's no air dash or double jump in this game, unlike in some of the X games where Zero was playable, but you can still do the wall jump, and dash jumping off of walls can get you some crazy distance. The platforming controls feel great. Honestly, better than some of the later X games. It's closer to that pixel-perfect feel of the Super Nintendo installments, which I like a lot. I was a little concerned by how large the sprites are. This is a GBA game after all, but I found that it never really caused any issues with platforming or enemies, at least no more than in any other Mega Man game. Speaking of enemies, combat feels good here too, but it is executed slightly differently than in the previous games. Rather than being limited to either your Saber or your Buster, you have both at all times. This means Zero ends up playing more as a combination of X and Zero from the previous games, almost like X in Mega Man X6, except I don't actively want to die while I play this. There are two other weapons too, the spear that I never used and the shield that I only used once in the final level. Oops.
Well, maybe that's for the best anyway, because by default, these weapons are useless. Seriously, they suck.
You can pop off 1 slash with the Z-Saber and fire 3 normal lemons with the Buster, and that's it. Now, using them repeatedly throughout the game will allow them to level up. The Z-Saber gets the triple slash, an aerial spin attack, and finally the charge slash, which seems a little useless at first, but it's actually incredibly important. I'll get to that later. By around halfway through the game, I had the Saber leveled up far enough to make it a truly formidable weapon, and the Buster enough to be of use from beginning to end. I'm glad that's the case because I dislike grinding a lot. So having my weapons upgrade organically alongside me in my playthrough without having to stop and kill lots of garbage side enemies was worth the slight decrease in variety for me. And yeah, killing enemies with the Saber feels great, especially when it's upgraded a little. Unlike in the X games where slashing stops you dead in your tracks because Zero apparently never learned how to use its arms and legs independently, here you can attack while moving. This is great! I also love the way that the enemies have a special animation for being killed with the Saber. It makes using it as your primary weapon incredibly satisfying, which is definitely a fitting thing for a game starring Zero.
So the core mechanics are solid and they feel really good, but how well are they utilized?
Well, it's kind of interesting. The game still lets you select your stage from a menu, but rather than the boss select screen with an 8-level structure, this game has you select missions from CL on a very basic menu with certain missions leading to others set in the same location when they're completed. Yeah, lots of them are optional. You can start a mission and then just bail on it and it will sever that quest chain. I never did that, but I think it's neat. Selecting a mission will have you transported to that area where CL will give you a quick rundown and then let you get to it. These mostly follow a pretty basic Mega Man structure, you know, navigate the level, fight the boss, the end. Pretty often though, you'll find that levels in this game shift and do something radically different. You'll still fight a boss every time, but sometimes that'll be the whole mission, or sometimes you'll fight a boss, then have to defuse a bunch of bombs, or fight a boss, then escort a character back to base. It's usually all just a slight tweak to the basic Mega Man formula, but I love this. The fact that with each mission, I didn't know exactly what to expect was a really nice twist on things without ever making it not feel like a Mega Man game. The fact that the missions are engaging is good because the levels they take place in, I mean, they're fine, they're good enough, but I never found that any of this game's levels were particularly memorable until the final stage. This is less down to weak level design and more a compromise made in the name of that narrative-based structure. You see, almost every area in this game is directly adjacent to the Resistance base, which acts as the hub world. You can wander out of the base and explore the majority of this game's world at your own leisure, and that's really cool, especially with all the missions being directly driven by the plot. I love when platformers create a cohesive world while still being linear A to B adventures. It just means that in this case the levels are a little samey, especially since you'll be going through them all at least twice each. It helps that they're all really short, even by Mega Man standards, which is probably more due to this being a GBA game than anything, and besides, I don't really mind the slightly generic level designs when the stages contain bosses that are this good. Seriously, these fights are the highlight of the game, no doubt. I mentioned the charged saber attack earlier, and this is where that comes into play. For the majority of the fights, the focus, at least for me, was on memorizing their patterns to find the perfect time to unleash a charged strike on them, all while dodging their very damaging attacks. Yeah, Zero has like no health by default and takes a lot of damage from bosses, so just damage sponging isn't an option. You've got to play smart, and that's expanded on further with the elemental chips. There are 3 of these drop by bosses, and they alter your charge strike with either lightning, fire, or ice. This is how they incorporated the classic Mega Man boss weaknesses, and although it doesn't change your moveset at all like in older games, with Zero feeling this good to attack with, I don't really mind that. Pairing the right element against the right boss feels good regardless of the unaltered gameplay. The most fun part of this game for me was the obligatory endgame boss rush, because these fights are all just such excellent and satisfying tests of both reflex and memorization, and trust me, I usually hate the boss rush, so that is saying something.
So yeah, the boss fights are legitimately some of the very best in the entire franchise. That being said, I do have my issues with this game, namely the way collectibles are handled. I think it's kind of legitimately awful.
Like in the X game, Zero starts out fairly weak, but he can be improved by collecting various items. Now, in the X series, these items are just found throughout the stage, and upon picking them up, you get a little jingle and bam, health extension or sub-tank or whatever. In Zero, it's handled a little bit differently. Scattered throughout the game are cyber elves. These guys are basically the catch-all collectible for the entire game, and they have a lot of different functions. Some will retrieve you from pits, some will act like E-tanks and give you health, while some will act as the heart tanks and sub-tanks from the X games, increasing your max health and giving you a permanent energy reserve. There's only one of each elf, and all of them can only be used once before they literally die. Wow, Zero doesn't give a fuck, apparently. I guess he's actually a sociopath. Makes you wonder what other dark secrets he's hiding under all that luscious hair of his. I don't mind this mechanic in concept, but the issue lies in the fact that some of the elves need to be leveled up before being used. This is accomplished by feeding them these chips that are dropped by enemies, and oh boy are some of these elves hungry little bastards. I actually found 2 of the heart tanks and 1 of the sub tanks during my playthrough for this video, but without going out of my way to grind, I was able to unlock 1 health extension right as I started the final level. That's really annoying. I don't like the idea of having to stop and grind in a 2D action platformer, especially one with as fast a pace as Mega Man Zero. It is such a flow killer. Fortunately, this entire mechanic, despite being important to the plot and theoretically being a main gameplay mechanic, is completely optional. You don't have to use elves, and in fact, the game encourages you not to, since using them lowers your rank at the end of missions. Oh yeah, this game has a ranking system, but it's totally arbitrary, and I forgot it even existed, so yeah. I got a single health extension, and I guess I get what they were going for. If you're good at the game, you won't need the elves anyway, so really, they mostly serve to help less experienced players. The process of grinding for chips would also level up your weapons, so in theory, the game as a whole will get easier the more you grind. I understand the idea, but I'm sorry, this just takes away all the thrill from collecting the elves. I like finding things in Mega Man games, it's fun, but when finding them is followed by grinding for an hour to use what I just found, it kinda takes that thrill away from me.
I can't really hold that against the game since it is an entirely optional mechanic in the end, but what isn't an optional mechanic, and what is similarly botched, is extra lives of all things.
Much like the Cyber Elves, there seem to be a finite number of these scattered throughout the game, and on the rare occasion they are dropped by enemies, it's an incredibly low drop rate. Now, extra lives being scarce isn't a problem in itself, but the way the game handles lives is equally brutal. Upon dying, you're brought to the screen where you can either spend a life to retry, give up, which just fails the mission forever and severs an entire questline, or load a save. I always loaded a save because you don't get any more lives than what you find. It's not like a normal game where you'll just get a new set of lives when you run out. Here, you'll just lose the option to retry forever, at least until you find another life. That's pretty punishing considering how hard this game is. I wouldn't exactly call Mega Man Zero the toughest game I've ever played, but make no mistake, this game expects a lot from the player. I praise the boss fights, and I stand by that. They are fantastic, but you are not going to beat most of these guys on your first try. You can reload at the checkpoint if you want to spend a life, but then if you die to the final boss or whatever, you're stuck replaying the entire final stage if you die. I saved my lives for the final fortress levels, and I'm glad I did, since it was much more convenient for me to pop back to a checkpoint before the boss fights than it would have been to replay the entire stage. And don't get me wrong, there are pre-boss checkpoints in every level, but since the majority of those missions are only around a minute long, it's not worth it to waste your valuable lives on them when you can just redo the trick and try the boss again without wasting too much time. I can't honestly say this mechanic really hindered my enjoyment of the game, but for people who are new to the style of gameplay, this is just insanely brutal, and as a result, I would not recommend Mega Man Zero as your first game in the Mega Man X gameplay style.
But that being said, would I recommend Mega Man Zero to people who are a little more familiar with the Mega Man X style of gameplay? Absolutely 100%, this game fucking rules!
Even though I have what I would consider to be pretty big complaints with this game, my complaints mostly pertain to mechanics that are either optional or easily circumvented thanks to the forgiving save feature. The core gameplay is as fun here as it was in the X series before it, and the presentation is fantastic. I didn't mention that yet, I'm an idiot. This game is beautiful, especially those sprites. Look at Zero's wonderful flowing locks, you can practically smell the artificial hair and engine oil. The rest of the characters look great as well, as do the enemies. I already mentioned how much I love slicing dudes in half, but in general, the way enemies react to being hit is so impactful. Generally just great fluid animation all around, along with some very pretty backgrounds, especially in the desert area. The game as a whole is just a great visual showpiece for the GBA hardware. The music is decent too, not the best in the franchise or anything, but it sounds really nice and it does the job, while sound effects during combat are just as satisfying as the animations. I also love the way the game conveys that all the areas you explore are directly around the resistance base, and honestly, these little things in the presentation make up for most, if not all, of my major complaints. I hate that I slept on this game for so long because I definitely had a lot of fun. Despite my issues with it, Mega Man Zero is a game I like a whole lot.
I'm definitely really excited to play the rest of the Zero games now, and I think you guys should too. Pick up the collection when it comes out. Tomorrow? Today? Yesterday? Kinda depends on when this video gets finished, to be honest. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of Mega Man Zero, the character, the game, the franchise, down in the comments below. That's below, that's down. Definitely curious to hear your thoughts. Also, be sure to subscribe if you want to see more from me. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and join the channel's Discord. I almost forgot the last thing. Do that too. Till next time, guys, I'm LyingTuna signing out. Bye.